So, okay, so we're talking about streamline your teaching life with Google Forms. And a lot of times, I think we think about Google Forms as the survey, and we're going to send it out to people, and we're going to collect all this data from them. One way that I've found where it's really useful is if I make a form and I collect data from myself. Has anybody else ever done that before? So I've found for me as a teacher, if I kind of like ask the kind of questions that's going to gather the data that I need to hang on to, I can use a Google form and collect data from myself, and that's one way that it really streamlines my life. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm going to show you. There are, of course, a ton of other ways. When I get to the end, I'll be curious to hear some of the things that you guys use. So it won't just be me, it'll be you guys too. So 2 quick things to show you before we start. Number 1, I have a free ebook available on my website. It's called 101 Practical Ways to Ditch That Textbook. Because I'm always looking for creative or just ideas, ways to bring creativity, technology, innovation into the classroom. So this is just a huge brainstorm of a bunch of those ideas. It's got screenshots, it's got links to articles that explain and all of that. So I'm going to give you a link to get that at the end of the session. So you got to hang on. And the second thing I wanted to show you real quick is this beautiful view board. So it's an interactive touchscreen panel. It's 75 inches, this one is. And it's got lots of cool features. One of my favorite ones is this. Brings up this little annotation panel. So you can draw all over. It actually does like multiple touch points. So you can draw like lots of fingers all at once if you want to, which means you can have multiple kids working on it all at once. If you make a mistake and need to erase something, it's just like a chalkboard. You ready for this? That's how you erase with it. Isn't that cool? And then whenever you're done, you hit this button right here, one touch upload to Google Drive. So if you've written all over the screen and you want to save that picture and give it to like a kid that was absent from school or whatever, you just upload it to your Google Drive. You can stick it in Google Classroom. You can email it. You can do whatever. So pretty cool stuff. All right, now that we've paid the bills, now we can get on to Google Forms. So couple of quick tips when it comes to Google Forms. And one of them is the fastest way to start up a brand new Google form. Now you guys are all familiar with Google Forms, aren't you? Have you used them at least a little bit? Okay. So this is like a little ninja trick that you may or may not know about, is that if you type in forms.google.com/create into a web browser, that will create a brand new Google form like that for you. You don't have to go in your Drive because it's kind of a hassle. All of the clicks, you got to go into your Drive, you got to click new, you got to click more, you got to go find forms, you click it, it takes forever. Okay, not like really forever, like first world problems, 4 clicks instead of 2, but this is one way to make a new Google form really, really fast. And it works with other stuff too, docs, slides, sheets, drawings. So yeah, any of that stuff, you type one of those in and you got it. So here's obviously what your form looks like as you're creating it. And so you've got all these different fields that you can create. You got your short answers, you got your date, this is a drop-down menu. All you do is you just hit that and it adds those fields, which is all probably stuff that you guys are familiar with. So as you're creating forms, there's a couple things to remember. And one of them I'm calling choose wisely, because there's some parts of forms that are similar. And if you don't know the differences between them, sometimes you might use one when you wanted to use another one. And the drop down and the multiple choice and the checkbox are an example of that. Let me show you what I mean. So when you add a new question, you've got multiple choice, you've got checkboxes, and you got drop downs. And they're all pretty similar, aren't they? But knowing the difference between them can make your form look better and can make it a little easier to work with. So you want to do multiple choice if you've got just a few different options. Let's say maybe up to 4 or something like that. You leave that, and then they can just click on the answer that they want to choose. So that makes it easy. But what happens if you get like 12 options? And it starts to get a little bit long, or 13 or 14 or 15. So now if we look at our form, look at that ridiculous question. It's enormous, isn't it? I mean, you got to scroll to see all of the possible options, and it makes your form really long, especially if you've got several questions like that. So that's a headache. Just change it to a drop-down. And so now what does it do? It takes all of those options and it collapses them down into one line. So if you've got something with lots and lots and lots of options, you want to use the drop-down instead. And of course, the checkbox, you're probably familiar with the checkbox. That's if you have more than one. If you want to let people select more than one, you want to use the checkboxes. So just knowing the difference between those sometimes can be useful. So that's that. Required. Required is your friend. Having required fields. And there's one field whenever you create forms and have parents use them or have students use them. There's one field that you should, I think, always, 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 always make required. Anybody want to guess what it is? Your name, exactly. And sometimes your email is a good one too. Yeah. But the one I was thinking of was your name. Because how frustrating is it whenever you have kids take like a quiz or do an assignment, and then you get all of them and half of them forgot to put their name on it. And I'm going, oh, who does this belong to? And then it's kind of pointless at that point. So what you want to do is, and I'll show you kind of where you find that. We'll just create a new form here. So you bring up your question, and then there's your required button right there. Now if I'm making, let me give you an example of, because I said earlier, you can use forms to collect data from yourself, right? One example of that is, what if you want to take notes about students? Like for behavior, or if you're doing some sort of activity and you want to show their proficiency, and you want to like log examples, and just any kind of notes you want to take about students. What if you create a form where, actually I've got an example of one right here, student notes. You create a form, there's a specific assignment, you can put it up here, there's a date, and then you got the students' names. And they've all got little text boxes down below. And so if you've got that form open, you just come back to it whenever you want to log something about Derek. You just type it in. If there's nothing you need to say about Jamie, you just leave it blank. And with Noel, you can write it in down there. Now there's probably one of these at least that you want to make sure that you require, right? Wait a second, we already talked about required, didn't we? I think I'm getting a little bit mixed up here. We were talking about, we're talking about required, sorry. It's been a long day. So anyway, the date. You probably want to make sure that you have the date and you don't want to forget that, right? Check the required box. Because for me, if I'm filling these in, sometimes I just skip over the date because I'm not thinking about it and I'm ready to write down what Derek did in class. And so I just skip over it. But if you remind yourself with that required button, that can really help. Data validation. Let's just leave that there. You guys familiar with data validation? This is where you've got either kids or parents or yourself. You're typing something into a text box. So let's change this to a short answer. And so, a common one that we might have somebody type in is their email address, right? One of you guys over here mentioned that. Was that you? Yeah, I thought so. Okay. So you got your email address here. But how often is it that somebody types in an email address and instead of .com or .whatever, they put a comma? So then it's like not even an email address. If you try to send an email there, it's not going to work. So if there's a way to check that, that would be great. That's where you get validation. So we've got this text box here, and these are the rules that it has to make sure are in place before you can submit it. And so if they're typing in a number or text, let's do text. The text has got to be an email address. Or the text has got to be a URL to a site. The fun thing about it also is that if they don't get that right, you can give them a custom error message. So you can be nice about it, or you can be like snarky about it. And so then if they try to submit it and it's not an email address, that's what they're going to get. So what it will also do, this is kind of cool. If you don't want to get really, really verbose answers, you can even limit the length to a maximum character amount, or you can even do a minimum character amount. So they've got to get 50 characters in there or they can't turn it in. Or the maximum character count. So that's like, it's got to be more than 100 characters before you can submit it. So that's data validation. So once you get your field in here, you come down here to the response validation, and that's where you can customize that. We're almost there. I got one more I want to show you, and that's a shortcut. So if you're doing something like gathering student notes, like I showed you earlier, parent call logs, because if you want to keep track of what you said in the conversation, who you talked to and everything, Google Forms are great for these. But if you got to dig them all out of your Google Drive every single time that you use them, that's a hassle. That's where the shortcuts really come in handy. This is my bookmarks bar in Google Chrome. Are any of the rest of you guys big fans of the bookmarks bar? Okay, yeah. If you're not, if you come over here in your Google Chrome and it's under bookmarks, see how that's checked right there where it says show bookmarks bar? That's what brings this up here. I put all sorts of stuff up here because it's so easy. And so if you create a form, you can hit the little star button. See where it says bookmarks bar right there. You hit that. And this one is continued on down there, but it's right there. So that's so much easier. Create one of those. It's so much easier to just click on that and open that form up than to try to dig it out of your Google Drive. And that goes for your mobile devices too. So if you're doing this on like an iPad or something, just pin it to your home screen. Or if you're doing it on a desktop computer, you can save these as like a little button that goes on your desktop. So there's all sorts of places you can put these shortcuts so you can access them that way instead of digging them out of your drive, which makes things a little easier. All right, so I showed you a couple of examples. I saved the best one to last. This is something that you may not be familiar with. There's this add-on called Check It Out. So if this is your life, if you have a clipboard where kids have to sign in or sign out to go to the bathroom, right? Isn't that crazy? Or if they've got to check out devices and check them back in, the Check It Out add-on does all of this with a Google form. So what you do is you create this Google form and you see all these names. Guess what it does? You type in your reason for leaving class, and if you are Sue T and you've got to go to the bathroom, you click on it right there and you hit submit, and guess where Sue T goes? It automatically moves her down here. Yeah, right? Exactly. And so when she comes back, you just click on her name here, and then you hit submit, and it moves her right back up there. Yeah, right? You could do this with, if you've got 20 Chromebooks in your room, you do Chromebook 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way down to 20. And you have the name of the person checking it out, and then they check them in and check them out. And the beauty of all of this is that every time you hit submit, it's logged on a spreadsheet. So you have a log of where everybody's been or where all the devices have been. Yeah. So on that spreadsheet, I hope this wasn't all too fast. If you're confused by any of it, come ask me later. But on that spreadsheet, you just add the Check It Out add-on, and it will do this all for you. Brilliant, right? I'm still blown away by whoever created this. I think it's awesome. If you're looking for, this is my page that's got all of the stuff I just talked about. So if you want to refer back to that later, you can use that link right there. You can also get to the free ebook there too. So the free ebook is in like the top right-hand corner of the page, and you can sign up for it right there. All right. Well, I want to get you guys on your way. So if you don't have a copy of my book and you stayed for the presentation, you get one. I've got some more of them up here. Thank you guys so much for coming.